Before the video starts, make sure to watch the previous part to understand this part. In the previous part, the MC successfully blocked her attack. This left her pride hurt because she could only put a scratch on his muscles. So she suggests that they compete, and since winning would mean they have superior martial arts, they would have the right to teach Blog. He explains to her that exercising isn't a martial art, it's the art of becoming Giga Chad. But she starts being hateful towards the gym rat, saying the big muscles would be useless in actual combat. This irritates the MC, but he is able to keep his composure. She continues with her hateful words, even going as far as saying working out is trash. After hearing this, his anger was pushed past its limit, and he entered chicken leg mode. While the two masters settled their dispute, the Gouda builders tried to guess who the winner will be, and since the MC has the size advantage, they guessed that he will be the winner. But Blog tells them not to guess off of size, since the general is one of the top 10 strongest people on the continent. Using Hawkeye, he analyzed her body, but becomes confused how she was able to put a scratch on his muscles with her muscle mass being so low. While explaining her teachings, she launches multiple attacks at him. After the MC successfully blocks all of them, she stopped to ask him a question. He answers her question saying he doesn't care, and launches a counterattack, which she was able to dodge by jumping in the air. And while launching an attack, she tells him that his aura resembles that of a demon. Also, his body changing technique isn't something a human should be using. Using power leg press, he dodged the attack, telling her that with effort anything is possible. She continues saying that humans are only supposed to use Kai and Mana as she uses her Mountain of Swords and Forest of Sabers skill. The skill landed, and she continues to be hateful to the gym rat. You're always gonna have haters, guys. She gets ready to use the same skill again, but using front double biceps pose, he was able to block the attack, telling her that us gym rats will outwork anyone. Then he grew to a monstrous size. Now towering over her, he tells her it's his turn. We then see Laper and Hindred apologize to Blog, thinking that Blog left because they were pressuring him. But he explains that it wasn't because of pressure, and he was planning to return after learning from Hansol. Hearing this, the two get happy and ask to learn from the MC as well. Happy to help his friends, he asked Gillord for assistance. At the squat rack, he explains to them the muscle group the squat works on, and even though he was warned to not ego lift for safety reasons, he continues adding the weight. Back to the fight, we see the general struggling to block his attacks, while the MC just seems to be toying with her. She heard Laper and Hendred grunting, and when she turned in their direction, she saw the two shirtless performing squats. After seeing this, she gets excited and calls for a timeout to ask about working out. The MC explained to her that her students were performing leg squats. After getting excited, she decided to include the MC's training into her students' training as well. Gym rats, we up. He deactivates chicken leg mode and asks her about her sudden change of heart. She tells him that it's because she was able to reach peak happiness, wink wink, from the hot sticky passion from her students working out. After hearing her reasoning, the two became united. We then see the two masters and their students traveling together. The MC becomes curious about her forearm muscles, which is very developed compared to her other muscle groups. She tells him that the reason her forearms are so developed is because she swings her sword every day for fun, and afterwards asking him why he would teach someone the ways of the gym rat for free. He tells her the more people that work out, the better, because that will cause them to try and find better ways to work out, also invent different forms of working out. His hope is that working out will spread to every corner of the world. After hearing his reasoning, she favors him even more. Later that night, while the group is setting up camp, the MC is informed by Blog that Wordo has discrimination toward different species, magic, and non-believers. Only humans, especially swordsmen, aren't discriminated against. Blog is worried that Gouda builders will face discrimination at Wordo Castle, but the MC's attention was directed somewhere else. He makes his way to the horse feed, and after observing it, he realized that it's the legendary oatmeal. Seeing his actions, the human knights were disgusted. Hearing the hate, Gulord schooled them by mixing their plain rice with his recipe. After tasting the food, the knights fell in love with the taste, stopping their hate, and the three became friends. We then see the MC asking the general for access to a supply of grains as payment for teaching them the ways of working out. She thought he wanted it to feed horses, but he explained to her that it's for him and the Gouda builders to eat. She agreed to provide him with a supply of the legendary oats, but feels a little bad about giving him animal food as payment for such a great way of life, and even the ghouls agreed. These fools don't know the value of oats. The MC starts getting irritated that they would diminish the value of oats to nothing more than animal feed. She agrees with the worried Gouda builders, telling him that what they were saying is true, and that she could provide better things for them like clothes and other things. Who needs clothes when you have a great physique? The ghouls cut in as well, saying that since they have more than enough chicken breast, the animal food isn't needed. After hearing his own students' hate of the legendary oats, he couldn't take it any longer and explained to them the greatness of oats. Afterwards, he asked them if they still think there is a better favor they could ask for. The general and her knights were very confused, but the ghouls were very pumped at the discovery of a new way to improve their muscles. Hearing their excitement about eating oats, the knight decided not to fall behind the ghouls and chose to eat the oats as well. But after eating a mouthful, they all spat it out in disgust, all except Blog, who is fond of the texture and taste of oats. A man of culture is born. Even though the general doesn't understand his reasoning, she agrees to get them a supply of oats. In the morning, the group entered the castle and got their taste of the discrimination Blog was talking about. The ghouls became uncomfortable from the stares they received from the citizens, but the MC tells them to maintain their posture because the citizens are staring at their nice muscular bodies. After hearing the MC's words, the ghouls put on a muscle flexing show for the people to see while making their way to the Lord's castle. At the castle, the Lord is told that his men will be taught how to work out in exchange for the legendary oatmeal, and since it was a request from his general, he agrees, but asks them to leave as soon as they are done with their teachings. The Lord acts sort of friendly towards the MC, but in reality he was irritated by his presence. He decided to use this opportunity to drag the general's popularity down since she was becoming too popular with the citizens. At the training ground, the knight's training is stopped by the general, who informs them that Hansel will be teaching them today. The MC introduced himself, but since he didn't like the way they were staring at him, he told them to drop to a push-up position. All the knights got into position except one, who doesn't approve to being taught by a monster. The instructor of the group tells him to get in position since it was a direct order from the general. The knight then asks him if he thinks Hansel is on the same level of strength as their general. Taking the instructor's silent as an answer, the knight tells the other knights to stand up, and while listing the things wrong with them, learning from the monster, the MC and the knight get ready to fight. But Gilord steps in, stopping the MC, saving the knight a trip to his creator. Gilord suggests that Blog teach them since he is human, and to determine the better training method, each party will send out a member to spar. Both sides agreed to the agreement, and the trash-talking knight stepped up for the human side, and a Gouda builder stepped up for the ghouls. In his head, he is confident that he is winning since he isn't actually a trainee, but a mercenary from the Tuchala mercenary corps hired by the Count. The mercenary launched an attack at the Gouda builders, but using one-arm dumbbell press, he is sent flying after one hit. They checked up on the mercenary, and after seeing some movements, they deduced that he is still alive, and the MC turned his attention to the ghoul, telling him that he shouldn't have been so harsh. The ghoul apologized, but he tells him that it's okay. Since they lost, the MC asked the knights to obey him now, but while they were distracted, the mercenary tries a sneak attack that failed thanks to Gilord, who used his heavy blunt skill. Taking advantage of this, the MC gives him a love tap that sends the mercenary blasting off again, but this time for good. In that moment, the general arrives at the training grounds to check on the MC, but she sees her knights not listening to her orders and instead hating on the MC and the ghouls. She asked her instructor for an explanation of what's going on. The instructor tells her that they proposed a duel since some of the knights weren't following orders, but even though they lost, they are accusing the monsters and the MC for using magic. So to solve the problem, she asked the MC, and after asking the MC if it was true, which it wasn't, she turned to the instructor. While the instructor was trying to make up an excuse, the lord of the castle arrives, asking his general if she would believe the words of the monsters, and if she is on their side or the monster's side. Using the injured mercenary to his advantage, he exiles the general for 2 years, but the trainees beg him to withdraw that order, and that they should just kill the monsters instead, like they could. She apologized to the MC, who was using the time that they were arguing to work out. Man is taking no breaks. She asked the Lord if they could at least keep their promise and allow the monsters and the MC to stay for 3 months. The Lord agrees to keep his promise. With a hidden agenda, she orders the soldiers to follow the Lord's orders and thanks him, saying she will use this as time to rest. Later that night, we see the mercenary, who is happy because if he keeps doing this kind of work, he will be able to open a flower shop, pulling out a picture of his daughter saying he will come home soon. Back at his home village, his house is burning, and the villagers have turned into zombie-like monsters. We then see 3 new enemies, enjoying the sight of their burning home. In the morning at the village, the trainees say goodbye to their masters. After saying their goodbyes, she asks Blog why he is following her. He tells her that he doesn't have any training, so he asked the MC if he could accompany her, to which he was allowed to, and she also lets him join her on her journey. Enjoying the changes in his voice, she tells him if he becomes a little bit braver she will allow him to marry her. But since Blog is in his 20s and she is around the age of 60, he declines. After a few workout sessions with the MC, Blog has become Giga Chad. The others hold her back while telling him to run away. We then see Gouda builders hunting some slimes, and after they are done they make their way to the MC hoping he has a new exercise for them. As they were making their way back they ran into Blog and the general, who asked them what they were doing with slimes. But since the Gouda builders aren't very good at explaining things, they followed them to the MC and asked him what he plans on doing with the slimes. He tells her that powerlifting and bodybuilding wouldn't be efficient for the trainees since they resemble athletes, so he plans on using the slimes to make equipment for them. Since she was confused on what kind of training he was talking about, he asked one of the Gouda builders for a slime and showed her the process of making a training band. While telling her the different kinds of exercises you can do with the training band, she thanks him because without his knowledge she has been watching him. She thought he was only acting like he was obsessed with the gym to get close to the humans, but now she sees that it's not just an act and that maybe he can bring some changes to Wordo Duchy. Hearing this he takes off his shirt and with the Gouda boulders he starts posing, but this wasn't the change she was talking about, showing him the trainees who has arrived to receive the MC's training. After promising to take care of the trainees he acquired new gym bros. But meanwhile we see the Lord of Wordo Castle investigating the fire that was set in the mercenaries' hometown. He orders his men to be careful since they are facing zombies, and that whoever is bitten will be turned into a zombie, then ordering them to charge. The battle ensued, and the enemies we saw previously wanted to make a move but are scared that the general, whose name is Roins, will get involved. A dog starts running and barking, so one of them kicks it. After kicking the dog, he tells it to be patient since the zombies are just props.